about it. We'll just do a brief kind of summary of Toulouse, Clermont.
Yeah.
24-18 in the final of Top Tours, and it was a deserved thing.
Yeah, it was great. Like it wasn't as much of a classic as you might have hoped, but it was great to see both of these two teams in the final. It's worth talking about because it was a truly great Top Couture season. The right teams were in the final with the right philosophies and the right mindsets, and very French, very all French affair. Packed out Stade de France, great occasion, lots of colour, lots of singing. And two great rugby teams duking it out. It was everything that was great about the Top Coutures.
A few too many Greg Laidlaw penalties for Clermont's sake. You would have rather see one or two Damien Pinot tries. Would have been a difference maker.
Yeah, it was massive that Toulouse managed to hold them out when they had their few chances. Clermont, they were in that game in that middling period of it. Like when the game started, both sides they got to 6-6 before anybody scored, and both sides missed chances. But crucially, it was Toulouse, as expected, really. The premier attacking team in the tournament, who managed at last to get outside what was a very good Clermont and good and disciplined Clermont defensive line that maintained its width, and early in the game was kind of frustrating Toulouse and forcing them to pick and jam, because that was really what was on and wasn't their game. But then eventually just the gas of Cheslin got outside them, and that was all she wrote, and that was a try.
But then conversely as well, there were a few chances for Pinot, there were a few breaks that Clermont had that little intercept as well, but Toulouse's scrambledy and defensive hustle over the course of the season and this game did well to shut them out, and did tell in the end. That was kind of what the crux of our preview looking at it was going Toulouse will win, mainly because I think they're both very, very impressive attacking sides. When you look at them hit their straps, it's very irresistible next to. But I can cite a few games this season where Toulouse have won off the back of their defensive hustle, whereas with Clermont not as much. And even in the games they were blowing teams away, there was always a sense that they were leaking a few soft.
They definitely defended a little better in this game.
Oh, they did. Like
one of the things you touched on at the start there, but they're obviously in with the big boys in the Champions Cup next season. They want to be winning that tournament. They want to be winning the Bouclier. Like, they want to be counted as one of the best teams in Europe. And just one of the themes of this year, like I've just seen them rack up 18 or 15 points like this without scoring a try a little too often. Yeah, they're just a little too comfortable taking 3 points. Like their general play is all out attack, but when they get a penalty, they just do chip on the 3 points. And it kind of cost them in that game. I mean, that was 2-0, and that's why Toulouse won it. Yeah. The general play was more balanced than that, but Toulouse found the tries, and that very often is the game. Yeah. So I feel like they're going to need to become a bit more ruthless if they want to win silverware. They're going to need to find tries.
Undoubtedly true. Yeah. And especially in finals, well, like ruthless is probably not one of the words you'd associate with Clermont.
Yeah, not right now anyway.
They tend not to be. They're little bit of soft elements, like even watching that Northampton game in the Challenge Cup earlier on in the season, where they were so much better than them and just put them away and were head and shoulders away from them, and then just switched off and allowed them back into within an ass's rubber getting there. Like, it was so baffling because it was like over a 20-point buffer that they just coughed up so quickly and so ridiculously, and you're just like, here now, how can you leak tries so? And then eventually it got them to such a point that I think it got back to a 1 or maybe a 2-score game before they switched back on and scored another try themselves. And it's like little elements like that to their play don't tend to plague Toulouse as much, and certainly don't plague as many European teams of Champions Cup calibre. You don't tend to see that as often, like just leaking a sequence of tries off just being switched off.
Yeah, and more to the point as well, just in like that second Huget try, which was a great example of just clutch. Like, they had the chance to do it, and everyone put in a perfect touch. I mean, it was a bit of a loose pass from Dupont, but then the perfect touch from Ramos, Aki, Gatoun, Colby, try for Huget in the corner.
Huget bags a brace.
Saluting. But those classy touches. The Toulouse backline is very much more in sync than the Clermont backline was, and that they suffered for that. I did think from Clermont's perspective that George Mawala kind of rolled back the years and had a class outing
for sure,
and Fritz Lee also was great in the pack. Yeah, but they were dominated up front, and then the loss of Aturia pre-match
definitely hurt them. I thought they did come up with a few clutch steals. There were a few turnovers on either side. The breakdown was actually a great contest in this whole game. And it was quite a fair contest. It was let roll. It was a bit officiated rather loosely sometimes,
which was physical.
Which made for some good contests, because it's always key to give sides like that, Toulouse and Clermont, who can break out from anywhere, give them scope to contest the breakdown. Don't be too pernickety about it as well, and make it a contest and a battle, and it will be.
It was relatively even matched in that area, and just because of the physicality, there were some loose plays, there were some knock-ons, there were some turnovers, so it never quite became the free-flowing, attacking, game that it could have been.
Thing,
but Toulouse, the right team, the better team, dominated and got it done, and that was
also
in
the interests of equality, I suppose. Like Clermont already have a trophy this year. They won the Challenge Cup, so it's nice that those two teams end up with some silverware.
It's very hard to listen to Stuart Barnes these days. He was annoying me in commentary, and he was determined to make the narrative Clermont bottle it again.
Yeah,
and I really didn't see it that way. I mean, I just saw it as the natural consequence of them playing as they play. They're a little lacking in certain areas, and they were always just going to come up a little short against a better Toulouse team.
Yeah.
They played 2 finals this year and won the one that they against the side they should have beaten, and lost the one against the side they weren't as good at.
Yeah, another case of the league table doesn't lie. They were below Toulouse, above Racing, or above La Rochelle, and
Stuart Barnes was determined to make this all about Clermont being a bottle job
to be fair, that's a very easy narrative to spin whenever Clermont are in a final.
Yeah, but it wasn't really, and it isn't the tale of this team. This team isn't. It's not a case of them being perfect all season, getting to a final and choking. They've been lacking.
Well, you certainly don't see that in the likes of Pinot, those kind of younger, new generation Clermont heads. You don't get the same sense that you did in years gone by when it was Rougerie's team and stuff like that they're going to panic and go within themselves. Like normally when the back's to the wall, that guy and a few others do step up and come up with some plays.
They played more or less like they've played all season, with some good elements and then some loose elements that cost them, and that ultimately was the deciding factor. Narrative wise, it's perfect that Toulouse won it. Toulouse were the best team all year. They have been the headline of the French Renaissance this year. Yeah. They have been great when you consider where they were a year ago, which was nowhere.
They could get as far as a semi-final, was it?
In the Champions
Cup, and only fall in Dublin. That's no bad thing.
No, and then to win the Bouclier, and they've been just flashy, class rugby, introduced us to a whole new crop of talent that a year ago we weren't talking about.
Yeah.
And it's the renaissance of French rugby, and they well earned their Bouclier
for sure.
And leave Entamac alone. If he wants to surf on the Bouclier, he can surf on the Bouclier.
This is it. It's all just good Instagram stories. But yeah, I suppose we leave that where it was. But yeah, delighted with the final, and delighted with the fair result, and the two best teams got there.
And very, very happy to wrap up French rugby in that way.
Great season overall.
Thanks for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you want to subscribe, there should be a button up here. Don't forget to give us a like and share with your friends. And please leave comments down below. We love the conversation. Thanks.